The night was unusually quiet in the Willow Creek subdivision, the kind of neighborhood where silence didn't feel peaceful. It felt imposed. Rows of perfectly trimmed hedges lined the sidewalks, every lawn measured like military formations, and porch lights all clicked on at precisely the same time, as if under the strict orders of some unseen commander. It was a place where conformity was law and individuality was treated like a crime. And at the center of it all stood the Homeowners Association, an all-powerful committee ruled by a woman whose name sent shivers down every resident's spine, Karen Whitmore. Karen wasn't just the president of the HOA. She was the HOA. With her clipboard clutched like a weapon, oversized sunglasses even after dark, and a voice that could cut through walls, she was the self-proclaimed guardian of order in Willow Creek. It was around 8:45 p.m. on a Wednesday evening when the sound of tires crunching gravel broke the quiet monotony. A black SUV pulled into a driveway at the far end of Willow Drive. Its headlights cut across the perfect suburban symmetry, and its presence alone seemed to disturb the artificial harmony of the place. Inside was Deputy Sheriff Daniel Harris, just back from a long shift at the county sheriff's office. His uniform shirt was draped over the passenger seat, leaving him in a plain gray t-shirt. Exhausted, he carried only two things in his hands as he stepped out: a steaming cup of coffee and the keys to his county-issued sheriff's vehicle, a black and white Ford Explorer with a gleaming badge decal and red-blue lights tucked neatly into the grille. He parked it neatly at the curb in front of his house, not blocking anyone, not breaking any rule, at least none that existed outside the mind of Karen Whitmore. Across the street, behind the blinds of her two-story colonial house, Karen's eyes locked onto the vehicle like a hawk spotting prey. Her lips pursed into a thin, disapproving line. Karen, muttering to herself, ugly, disruptive, completely unacceptable. A police vehicle? In my neighborhood? This isn't some crime-ridden dump. This is Willow Creek. How dare he bring that eyesore into our pristine streets? The street was silent except for the faint chirp of crickets, but in Karen's mind, the sheriff's vehicle was already blaring sirens, screaming chaos into her perfect world. She stormed into her living room, grabbing her HOA handbook, a thick binder that looked more like a medieval spellbook. She flipped through it furiously, searching for any rule, any line, any loophole she could weaponize. Her finger landed on a section. All vehicles parked on HOA property must be in good condition, free of commercial signage, and approved for residential aesthetics. Her eyes lit up. Karen, there it is. Commercial signage. That decal, law enforcement or not, it's advertising, and it's against the rules. I'll have it towed before sunrise. Meanwhile, across the street, Sheriff Harris had settled into his recliner, unaware that his peaceful night was about to turn into a battlefield. He sipped his coffee, stretched his legs, and let out a long sigh. She snapped her fingers. Karen, that's it. I'll call the tow company. No one gets to break HOA rules on my watch. But before she could pick up her phone, she rehearsed her lines in the mirror, because Karen never did anything without dramatic flair. Karen, posing, practicing. This is a private community, sir, and your so-called law enforcement vehicle is a disgrace to our standards. Either you move it immediately or I'll have it removed for you. She puffed her chest, adjusted her pearls, and gave herself a nod of satisfaction. Meanwhile, at the other end of Willow Drive, the environment couldn't be more different. Deputy Harris's home was modest but warm. The faint aroma of brewed coffee filled the living room, and the low hum of a TV sitcom played in the background. Harris sat back, boots off. His German shepherd, Rex, sprawled lazily on the rug beside him. It was the kind of quiet comfort a man longed for after 12 hours of breakneck calls, domestic disputes, speeding tickets, a car accident cleanup. Harris wasn't just a cop. He was a man trying to carve out a slice of peace in a world that never gave him much. And yet, outside his door, that peace was already being dismantled, one pearl-clad step at a time. At exactly 9:02 p.m., Karen emerged from her house. She wore her official HOA blazer, a navy blue jacket with a shiny Willow Creek HOA badge pinned to the lapel. In one hand, she clutched her ever-present clipboard, stacked with the papers, citations, and pre-filled violation forms. In the other hand, she carried her phone, already dialed to the neighborhood's contracted towing company. The night air was still, the sky a canvas of stars. Porch lights glowed uniformly, like little soldiers standing guard. But the peace was broken by the click of Karen's heels as she strutted across the street, her shadow stretching long under the street lamp. Karen, into phone, whispering conspiratorially, "Yes, it's me again. Karen Whitmore, Willow Creek HOA president. We have a violation. Yes, immediate tow, black SUV with police decals parked right in front of 314 Willow Drive. No, I don't care who owns it. Rules are rules. Get here within the hour." She snapped the phone shut dramatically. Though it was a touchscreen, she still mimed the motion, as if her life was one big performance. From his recliner, Harris noticed movement through the blinds. His instincts, honed by years on the force, perked up. He stood, stretching his tired muscles, and stepped to the window. He saw her, Karen Whitmore, clipboard, phone, that unmistakable, determined march toward his vehicle. Harris sighed and muttered under his breath. Harris, of course, couldn't even last a week without drama. Rex barked once, a low growl vibrating in his chest, as if the dog himself could sense the storm brewing. Karen circled the SUV like a vulture examining prey. She crouched down, peering at the license plate, jotting something down furiously on her clipboard. Then she stood tall, running her fingers along the sheriff's decal with exaggerated disgust, as though even touching it was offensive. Karen, to herself, loud enough for neighbors to hear. Absolutely disgraceful. This is a family community, not a parking lot for criminals and patrolmen. Lights flicked on in nearby houses, curtains parted, neighbors peeked out, already accustomed to Karen's late-night crusades. Some smirked, some shook their heads. A few even whispered. Neighbor one hushed. "Oh, she's at it again. Who's the victim this time?" Neighbor two echoed. "New guy at the end of the street. Sin. Didn't stand a chance." Neighbor three. "She doesn't know, does she? That's the sheriff's car." They stifled their laughter. For once, entertainment had come to Willow Creek. Harris opened his front door. The creak of its hinges silenced the whispers for a moment. He stepped out slowly, deliberately, his tall frame casting a long shadow across the yard. Karen froze, then straightened, adopting her official stance, chin high, back stiff, clipboard clutched like a shield. Karen, sweet fake smile. "Oh, good evening. You must be the new neighbor. I'm Karen Whitmore, president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association. I was just about to leave you a friendly notice." Harris didn't respond immediately. He sipped from his coffee mug, watching her with calm, measured eyes, the kind of look that had rattled criminals in interrogation rooms for years. Finally, he spoke. "Harris, friendly notice, huh? For what?" Karen clicked her tongue dramatically, flipping through her clipboard as if she were holding sacred law. "Karen, for this." Gestures to the SUV. "Parking a commercial vehicle with decals and emergency equipment in a residential neighborhood. A direct violation of Willow Creek Section 4, Subchapter B, Line 17. Harris raised an eyebrow, amused. "Harris, that's not a commercial vehicle." Karen scoffed so loudly it echoed. "Karen, excuse me? It clearly has signage. Look at those tacky stickers. And those flashing lights. Do you realize what this does to our property values? How unsafe it makes us all feel?" The neighbors behind their curtains stifled chuckles. Someone whispered, "Neighbor two, she's really doing it. She's actually telling a sheriff his car makes us unsafe." Karen, emboldened by her imagined authority, leaned closer, pointing the tip of her pen right at Harris's chest. "Karen, I'll have you know, sir, I've already called the tow company. Your little cop car will be gone within the hour, so I suggest you move it before things get unpleasant." For the first time, Harris smiled. Not a wide grin, just a faint, knowing smirk. "Harris, unpleasant, huh? We'll see about that." He turned, walked back inside, and shut the door without another word. Karen gasped, scandalized. "Karen, how dare he walk away from me? Oh, he has no idea who he's dealing with. I run this community. I own these streets. She scribbled furiously on her clipboard, muttering curses under her breath. Behind the blinds, the neighbors could barely contain their laughter. They didn't dare step outside. No one wanted to be on Karen's hit list, but the drama unfolding was better than TV. And as the tow truck's distant rumble began to echo from beyond the subdivision gates, the stage was set. Narrator, deep cinematic tone. In Willow Creek, battles weren't fought with fists or weapons. They were fought with clipboards, citations, and egos. But tonight, Karen Whitmore was about to discover what happens when her power meets the one authority she can't control. The rumble of the tow truck grew louder as it made its way down the quiet, uniformed streets of Willow Creek. Its headlights cut across manicured lawns and flower beds arranged with mathematical precision. Karen stood at the curb, clipboard pressed to her chest, a smug smile tugging at her lips. She adjusted her pearls, straightened her blazer, and rehearsed her victory speech in her head. Tonight, she would once again prove to the residents of Willow Creek that she was the true enforcer of order. Karen, muttering, "They'll thank me for this. No one wants police vehicles cluttering up our perfect streets. They're practically advertisements for crime." The tow truck, a large rusty machine with squealing brakes, finally pulled up. The driver, a burly man with grease-stained hands and a baseball cap pulled low, leaned out the window. Tow driver, "Evening, you the one who called?" Karen's smile widened. Karen, "Yes, Karen Whitmore, president of the Willow Creek HOA. Thank you for responding so quickly." That dramatic point toward the sheriff's SUV. "Is the vehicle in violation? Tow it immediately." The driver frowned, squinting at the SUV. His eyes caught the badge decal, the government plates, the light bar tucked neatly into the grille. His expression shifted from confusion to outright concern. Tow driver, Ma'am, that looks like a law enforcement vehicle." Karen rolled her eyes with the exaggerated flair of a stage actress. Karen, "And your point? Rules are rules. That thing is an eyesore. This is a private community. The handbook clearly states—" She flips furiously through her binder, papers rustling dramatically. "No commercial or emergency vehicles are permitted on HOA property overnight. Therefore, you must tow it." The driver scratched his head. Tow driver, "Lady, I don't think you understand. That's the sheriff's car. I can't just tow a police cruiser without authorization. That's asking for trouble." Karen gasped as though personally insulted. Karen, "Trouble? Do you know who you're speaking to? I am the president of Willow Creek HOA. My authorization is all you need. I could have your company blacklisted from every gated community in this county with a single phone call." The neighbors, peering from behind their curtains, stifled laughter. Some even pulled out their phones, quietly recording the spectacle. Neighbor 1 whispering, "She's actually threatening the tow guy now." Neighbor 2, "Oh, this is gold, pure gold." Inside his home, Sheriff Harris sat calmly on the couch, sipping his coffee. He had deliberately stayed inside, knowing Karen's theatrics would escalate. Rex, his German shepherd, wagged his tail lazily, sensing his owner's quiet amusement. Harris muttered to himself, "Let her dig her own hole." Outside, Karen was now in full performance mode. She marched circles around the SUV, gesturing wildly with her clipboard like a baton. Karen, "Do you see this? Flashing lights, badges. This is propaganda, sir. Propaganda for lawlessness. Our children could see this vehicle and assume crime is happening in their neighborhood. Property values will plummet. Safety is compromised. Tow it." The tow driver leaned back in his seat, muttering under his breath. Tow driver, "Lady, you're nuts." Karen's head snapped toward him, eyes wide with mock outrage. Karen, "Nuts? How dare you? I am the backbone of this community. I ensure order, peace, and perfection. Without me, Willow Creek would descend into chaos. And if you refuse to do your duty, I'll have you replaced with a company that understands the value of authority." She stomped her foot for emphasis. The sound echoed comically against the quiet street. At that exact moment, the front door to Harris's home opened again. He stepped outside, this time in his uniform pants and plain gray t-shirt, badge clipped casually to his belt. His presence immediately shifted the atmosphere. Neighbors ducked behind their curtains. The tow driver straightened in his seat. Even Karen faltered for a moment, but only for a moment. Harris, evening, folks. Everything all right out here? Karen plastered on her fakest smile. Karen, Deputy Harris, perfect timing. I was just addressing a serious violation. This vehicle of yours, gestures dramatically, is in direct violation of HOA regulations. The tow truck is here to remove it. Harris crossed his arms, his calm demeanor a sharp contrast to Karen's shrill theatrics. Harris, you called a tow truck for a sheriff's vehicle? Karen nodded eagerly, mistaking his calmness for concession. Karen, yes, of course. Don't worry, I'll handle the paperwork. We can't have this kind of visual pollution in our pristine neighborhood. Think of the property values. The tow driver looked from Harris to Karen, then back again, visibly uncomfortable. Tow driver, deputy, sir, I don't want no trouble. She's the one who called me. I wasn't going to touch the vehicle once I saw the plates. Harris gave a small nod. Harris, you did the right thing. You tow a government vehicle without clearance. You're the one who ends up in cuffs. Karen gasped again, this time more dramatically than ever. She clutched her pearls with both hands. Karen, cuffs? Are you threatening this hardworking man? How dare you abuse your so-called power in front of me, the president of this community? The neighbors watching nearly choked on their laughter. One whispered, Neighbor 3, she really thinks she outranks the sheriff. Karen marched right up to Harris, pointing her pen dangerously close to his chest. Karen, you listen to me, sir. I don't care what badge you flash or what title you wave around. In this neighborhood, my word is law. Either you move that monstrosity immediately, or I'll ensure this entire community votes you out. Harris tilted his head, amused. Harris, votes me out? You know I don't work for you, right? Karen sneered. Karen, oh, you'll find out just how much influence I have. I've toppled stronger men than you with a single violation notice. The tow driver couldn't hold it in anymore. He let out a loud laugh before quickly covering his mouth. Tow driver, sorry, just, wow. Karen spun on him like a viper. Karen, what's so funny? Do your job and tow this vehicle. Tow driver, lady, if I hook up that SUV, I'm the one who ends up in jail. You think I'm crazy? Karen stamped her foot again. Karen, this is unacceptable. I will not be disrespected in my own neighborhood. You'll both regret this insolence. Her voice echoed across the street, shrill and commanding, like a dictator rallying troops. But Harris had had enough. He stepped forward, his calm tone carrying an authority Karen couldn't match. Harris, here's what's going to happen. That tow truck is going to leave. My vehicle stays right where it is, and you, Karen, are going to go home and put your clipboard away before you get yourself into trouble you can't talk your way out of. Karen's jaw dropped. For the first time, her act faltered. Karen, trouble? Me? Don't you know who I am? Harris, oh, I know exactly who you are. And trust me, I've dealt with your type plenty of times. The louder they are, the harder they fall. The neighbors nearly burst into applause behind their windows. The tow driver chuckled openly now, shaking his head. Tow driver, good luck, deputy. You're braver than me. He revved the truck and slowly pulled away, leaving Karen standing alone beside the SUV, red-faced and sputtering. Karen shouting after him, don't you dare leave. This isn't over. I'll call your supervisor. But the truck was gone, its taillights fading into the night. Karen spun back toward Harris, trembling with fury. Karen, you may think you've won tonight, deputy, but I assure you I will find a way to have that car removed. You can't hide behind your badge forever. Harris gave her a steady, unflinching look. Harris, try me. He turned and walked back into his house, shutting the door once again, leaving Karen fuming under the street lamp. The night in Willow Creek seemed to hold its breath. After the tow truck's departure, the street returned to its eerie suburban silence, except for Karen's voice, which still echoed in sharp bursts as she stormed back toward her house. Karen muttering furiously, unbelievable. The nerve, the arrogance. He thinks a shiny badge puts him above the rules? Not in my neighborhood. Oh no, this isn't over. It's just begun. She slammed her front door shut, rattling the glass panes. Inside, she ripped open her HOA binder, flipping through pages with manic determination. Her eyes scanned rule after rule, searching for anything, any technicality, any obscure bylaw that could justify her crusade against the sheriff's vehicle. Her pen flew across violation slips. She wrote in bold, angry letters, unauthorized commercial signage, disturbance of neighborhood harmony, vehicle intimidating to children, violation of HOA aesthetics. She stacked the papers like ammunition, her fury boiling into a storm. Meanwhile, across the street, Sheriff Harris watched calmly from his window. He wasn't angry. He wasn't even annoyed. If anything, he looked amused. Rex, his German shepherd, wagged his tail beside him as Harris spoke quietly. Harris, she's really going all in, huh, boy? Doesn't even realize she's digging her own grave. He set down his coffee and pulled out his phone. Not to call anyone, just to check his notifications. And sure enough, several of his neighbors had already texted him short, gleeful messages. Please tell me you are recording this. She has no idea whose car that is. This is better than Netflix. Harris smirked, pocketed his phone, and waited, because he knew Karen wouldn't stop. Not until she felt she had won, or until someone smarter than her let her lose. The next morning, the neighborhood buzzed with whispers. Willow Creek thrived on gossip, and Karen's midnight showdown was the juiciest story in months. Joggers passed by Harris's SUV, sneaking glances. Parents walking their kids to the school bus shared knowing smiles, but Karen wasn't embarrassed. Not yet. She strutted down the sidewalk in broad daylight, armed with her clipboard and a stack of violation notices. She handed them out to bewildered residents like a general distributing orders to her troops. Karen, announcing loudly to a neighbor mowing his lawn, "Do not be alarmed, Mr. Turner. The HOA is handling last night's disturbance. Law enforcement vehicles are not welcome in our community, and I assure you I will see it resolved." Neighbor Turner raised an eyebrow but stayed silent. No one dared challenge Karen directly. It was always safer to let her believe she was winning. By midday, Karen had launched her next move. She composed a long, fiery email addressed to every resident of Willow Creek, CCing the HOA board. Subject, urgent violation. Threat to Willow Creek standards. The email, written in all caps for dramatic emphasis, warned residents of the unsightly police vehicle, threatening their community's property values. She described Harris as a disruptive force and hinted that failure to comply with HOA standards may result in legal action. She ended with her signature line, "Karen Whitmore, HOA President, Defender of Order." Satisfied, she hit send all. But what Karen didn't know was that Harris had already made a clever move. The sheriff's vehicle wasn't just any SUV, it was equipped with a dash camera that recorded continuously, even when parked. The camera had captured everything. Karen circling the vehicle, ranting, calling the tow company, even jabbing her pen at him as she declared herself the law of the neighborhood. Better yet, the tow driver, who wasn't eager to be dragged into Karen's drama, had texted Harris later that night. Tow driver's message: "Deputy, just so you know, I recorded that whole thing on my phone in case that crazy lady tries to file a complaint." Harris chuckled when he read it. 2 cameras, 2 angles, ironclad evidence. He didn't plan on using it, not yet. He was a patient man, and he knew Karen's arrogance would eventually push her into checkmate all on her own. That evening, just as the sun dipped below the horizon, Karen struck again. She marched to Harris's front door, clipboard in hand, flanked by 2 HOA board members she'd guilted into following her. "Knock, knock, knock!" Her pounding rattled the door. Harris opened it slowly, his calm gaze falling on the trio. "Karen, Deputy Harris, we're here to serve you official HOA violation notices. 3 in total. Failure to comply will result in fines of up to $500 per day and possible legal action." She thrust the papers toward him like a queen issuing a royal decree. Harris didn't even look down. "Harris, you know those fines don't apply to government property, right?" Karen's eyes bulged. "Karen, excuse me? Nothing is above the HOA. Nothing." Harris finally took the papers, skimmed the absurd accusations, and let out a low whistle. "Harris, vehicle intimidating to children? Really?" Karen lifted her chin proudly. "Karen, yes, children should not be subjected to such frightening displays of authority. They might develop anxiety, or worse, resentment toward community standards. One of the board members behind her shifted uncomfortably. HOA board member, quietly. Karen, I don't think. Karen snapped her fingers, silencing him. Karen, not now, Charles. This is bigger than you. Harris folded the papers neatly and tucked them into his pocket. Harris, well, Karen, I've got some paperwork of my own. You see, filing false complaints against law enforcement can be considered harassment, and I've got plenty of evidence. Karen froze for half a second, then forced a laugh that sounded more like a squawk. Karen, ha! Evidence? What evidence? It's your word against mine. Harrius leaned against the doorframe, his voice steady, calm, and just threatening enough. Harris, not exactly. My vehicle's dash cam runs 24/7, and the tow driver sent me his recording too. Both captured every word you said last night. Karen's face drained of color. For the first time, her confidence wavered. Karen, dash cam? Harris nodded slowly. Harris, yep, video and audio. Pretty clear footage too, especially the part where you tried to order a government vehicle towed, or the part where you said a sheriff's car makes kids feel unsafe. I think the county board might find that interesting. The two HOA board members exchanged uneasy glances. One of them muttered under his breath, HOA board member 2. Oh boy, Karen sputtered, her hands tightening around her clipboard. Karen Weimner, you wouldn't dare. That's an invasion of privacy. Harris smirked. Harris, funny. You had no problem yelling in the middle of the street loud enough for half the neighborhood to hear. Don't worry, Karen, nothing private about it, just public record. Behind Karen, several neighbors had quietly gathered on their porches, pretending to water plants or check mail, but really just eavesdropping. Word spread fast in Willow Creek, and everyone knew a showdown was happening. Neighbor 1, whispering, this is it. She's cornered. Neighbor 2, about time someone shut her down. Karen, realizing the growing audience, doubled down. She lifted her chin again, forcing her voice into a booming declaration. Karen, you may think you've won, deputy, but you underestimate me. I will not be intimidated by threats or cameras. I will convene an emergency HOA meeting tonight, and we will vote to have your vehicle permanently banned from this community. Her words echoed, but this time, instead of fear, the neighbors' faces showed amusement. Some even smirked openly. Harris shook his head slowly. Harris, go ahead, Karen. Hold your little meeting. Just remember, everything you're doing is being documented. And if you keep pushing, well, let's just say the sheriff's department loves a good harassment case. He gave her a final steady look, then shut the door in her face. Karen stood frozen, clipboard trembling in her hands. The HOA board members shifted awkwardly beside her, clearly rethinking their alliance. And the neighbors? They were grinning from ear to ear. The courtroom was silent. The only sound was the faint hum of the air conditioner and the rapid scratching of the clerk's pen. Karen sat at the defendant's table, her confidence drained, her face pale. She still clutched that little HOA handbook like it was a shield, but the weight of reality pressed heavy on her shoulders. The sheriff took the stand again. His voice was calm, authoritative, and unwavering. Your Honor, he said, this case is more than a neighborly dispute. It's about abuse of power. The HOA, under Karen's leadership, has harassed, intimidated, and attempted to manipulate residents. But the moment she ordered my vehicle towed, an active duty sheriff's unit, she crossed the line into obstruction of justice. Karen shot up, her voice trembling. That's ridiculous. I was only following the bylaws. The judge slammed her gavel. Sit down, Ms. Green. You've spoken out of turn enough times. Her lawyer leaned in, whispering frantically, but Karen shook her head violently. She wasn't listening. She couldn't believe this was happening. The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, we have documented evidence, the fines, the threats, the fabricated violation notices. Multiple residents have filed sworn affidavits that Karen used her HOA presidency for personal gain and vendettas. But the most damning piece, he pointed to the sheriff, is her interference with law enforcement. The judge nodded. Ms. Green, do you understand the seriousness of these charges? You could face fines, removal from office, even criminal charges. Karen's voice cracked as she stood again. This, this isn't fair. I built this community. Without me, it'll fall apart. They need me. I was protecting property values. The sheriff rose slowly, turning his gaze toward her. No, Karen, you weren't protecting anyone. You were protecting your control. The silence that followed was suffocating. Finally, the judge spoke. Effective immediately, you are removed from your position as HOA president. This court recommends the community dissolve the current HOA leadership and elect a new board. As for the criminal charges, we will proceed to trial. Karen's knees buckled. For the first time, the woman who had terrorized an entire neighborhood looked small, helpless, defeated. The fallout, the weeks that followed were surreal. Without Karen at the helm, the HOA scrambled to reorganize. The sheriff's department monitored the transition closely, ensuring no retaliation occurred. For the first time in years, the neighborhood felt free. Residents could park in front of their own homes without receiving a citation. Children played in the cul-de-sacs again, without parents fearing a fine for noise violations. Holiday decorations went back up, colorful and unapologetic. And me, I felt like I had survived a war. One evening as I watered the front lawn, the sheriff stopped by. He leaned against his cruiser, arms crossed. "You did good," he said. "Most people don't stand up to folks like her. They roll over, but you fought back." I nodded, still processing everything. I didn't do it alone. She made too many enemies. Eventually, it caught up with her. The sheriff smirked. Funny thing about people like her. They think they're invincible. But all it takes is one wrong move. And trying to tow a sheriff's vehicle? That was her last straw. We both chuckled. For the first time in months, the sound felt genuine. Karen's last act rumors swirled for months after Karen's removal. Some said she tried to run for HOA president in another neighborhood and was immediately rejected. Others claimed she was still fighting her legal battles, drowning in fines and attorney fees. But one story stuck with me. A neighbor spotted her car outside the old HOA office one night. She was sitting alone in the driver's seat, staring at the building she once ruled like a queen. Her face was hollow, her eyes distant. When she finally drove away, it felt like the last ghost of her reign had left with her. Conclusion, cinematic ending. Life eventually returned to normal. The lawn still grew, the fences still needed repair, and the occasional neighborly squabble still flared up. But the air was lighter, the fear was gone. Standing on my porch one evening, I realized something. HOAs, at their core, are just structures. What makes them dangerous isn't the rules written in a handbook. It's the people who weaponize them. Karen was the embodiment of that weaponization. And in the end, her downfall wasn't caused by one neighbor's rebellion or even the sheriff's authority. It was her own arrogance. Because the moment she tried to tow the sheriff's car, she wasn't just fighting neighbors anymore. She was fighting the law. And the law always has the last word.